Joined now by ESPN's own Karl Ravech. And Karl, I don't know if you're a big Pedro Serrano fan, but I'd be curious, who's your favorite baseball player from movies or TV shows over the years?
No, I'm a Serrano fan. I've always been loyal to Kelly Leak. I think he was as good a baseball character in a movie as you're going to find. I kind of was into the things that he did. I liked the attitude. I liked the bike. I liked the hair. I thought the freckles were cool. He kind of strutted, hit the ball further than most, just kind of showed up, said, I'm here to kick ass, and then I'm going to leave. So I go with probably Kelly Leak as a baseball character in a baseball-related movie. But Serrano, I mean, that whole movie is kind of religious. I was big into the dog that used to steal the baseballs when it went over the fence. I thought that was kind of a cool character, the Babe Ruth signed baseball. But that was obviously a four-legged creature.
Yeah, if you get a rare off day, are you the type to go see a big blockbuster, Karl? Like, are you a Fast 9 guy, or are you looking for the next Minari?
No, Minari. I would say that I'm not. And I generally, I mean, I know that my buddy and your buddy Adnan, I defer to my wife, the great Christino, on all this. She could be a movie reviewer, so I generally fall on the sword of whatever Chris wants to see as movies. I'd say Godfather, sort of Jaws, those types of big movies, but I'm not Fast and Furious guy at all. Minari works for us, that type of film. And like most, I think, who fall into that category, we're obviously now sort of enamored with Ted Lasso. We now follow that Ted Lasso on Twitter. We like all of his sayings. We like the attitude. We love the Lasso genre.
I'm glad that the Ravech household is downloading, rating, reviewing, subscribing to the Cinephile podcast with Adnan Virk. That's good. Keep it a house of cinephiles over there.
It's sort of long time, first time.
We're
longtime friends of Adnan, so we'll support anything that Adnan does.
Well, Karl, as you know, my father, a longtime suffering Boston Red Sox fan, has now become entitled with his 4 World Series.
Absolutely.
Didn't have expectations going into this season, but I get an email, a text, a phone call every time Alex Verdugo does anything at all.
Right.
I knew, though, that when that ball was thrown in Yankee Stadium and hit him in the back, that could be a turning point for both these teams. Where do you see the Red Sox and the Yankees now as we head down the stretch?
That was sort of the era with fire coming out of it. It just metaphorically with the baseball, like all of a sudden they've knocked down the giant that is Alex Verdugo and the Red Sox, and they're back down to earth. Is that
they've won 5 out of 6 now in the Bronx, and the Red Sox struggling here. Just one of those weird nights in the Bronx with the rain, and you go, maybe this season's going to change for both these teams here moving forward, and it looks like it has.
A couple of days after the deadline, as you know, and I know your dad knows, the Red Sox had acquired Schwarber, and they lost 2 games. The Blue Jays, picked up a really good pitcher, and the Yankees picked up 2 really good hitters, both left-handed, and the Rays picked up Nelson Cruz, and they, after two days, hadn't lost any games. So, it felt that way, and it continues to kind of feel like the Red Sox are teetering. I think that it's amazing. I think Schwarber has magnified, as opposed to the attention being on what he may do for them as just a left-handed bat who can help Renfroe out because he's not great against righties and you could platoon. But I think just the fact they got Schwarber magnifies some of the deficiencies that we've seen recently with the starting pitching. For a while, Nick Pivetta was good last night. Evaldi really struggled. I think there's all sorts of concerns and question marks about Eduardo Rodriguez. It's like the Giants, and you can appreciate that. There's just some skepticism in the fact that the Giants are leading the NL West because the names are not the Dodgers names and they're not the Padres names and their track records aren't great. Well, the Red Sox, for the most part, Nick Pivetta's track record isn't great. Eduardo Rodriguez is coming off an injury-plagued, COVID-related heart issue 2020. So there's just some skepticism around him in the last few days. That's only been fueled by their losses and their lack of wins while the other teams are winning.
Karl Ravech joins the show, ESPN Baseball Tonight. Ben Lyons in for Rich on the Rich Eisen Show. You mentioned Schwarber, but a bunch of former Cubs, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javi Baez, all on the go, all hitting home runs in their debuts with these new teams. Do you enjoy seeing the 2016 Cubs now kind of moving on and finding themselves in different situations, or is an end of an era and you're like Sarah Spain and you're just crying every night watching these guys hit bombs elsewhere?
No, I'm all about not necessarily anchoring to teams or franchises and faces changing. I'm delighted for those three dudes to go and hit home runs in their new cities. I'm not crying, but I'm bummed for my guy David Ross. I think he's in a rough spot, but I think he's also going to be able to deal with it. I think the pressure's now off to win. It's a weird year for Chicago because they stunk in the beginning. Then they were in first place, and they had traded Yu Darvish before the whole thing started. And you're like, well, wait a minute, they're in a trade, they're in a sell mode. Like the fact that they're having success to me was smoke and mirrors. The fact that your dad didn't have much hope for the Red Sox this year, I would disagree with that. I thought the Red Sox were an epic fail. I mean, the Red Sox were Norbit last year, as just to use movie language. That was one of the rare movies I walked out on. They just quit. They didn't try. They had more talent than most teams did, and last year they just kind of gave up. This year they're actually hitting the baseball and catching the baseball, and prior to the Rays series, pitching the baseball at a level I thought they would. That's why when you ask who's the manager of the year in the American League, to me it's Tony La Russa. I mean, you talk about skepticism and teams that have dealt with huge injuries all year, and I think have achieved, if not overachieved. I thought the Red Sox were going to be as this good, if not as good as the Yankees and Rays. They should have been last year, and they took the year off.
Carl, I just want to go back to that movie theater experience where you're watching Norbit and you say, you know what,
Yeah.
I've had enough.
Yep.
What was it in Norbit that you saw that you said, you know what, I got better things to do?
Yeah. It was one of those where you're just kind of waiting, and I've heard this before with people, whether they're playing a round of golf and you recognize there's nothing about this particular round for this person that's going to improve. You could walk off now and it's going to feel the same. Norbit, I'd say 30 minutes in I've reached the point of no return. There's nothing about this particular movie that is going to alter my opinion of it. I'm done. I'm ready to sell. I think I had probably bottomed out on the popcorn, and I was like, nope, I can't. It's not going to turn. And I have not heard from anybody who suggested, you missed the last hour 20, you really blew it. So if you were going to tell me that, I'll go back and try again. But I haven't heard anybody come out and say, yeah, you missed a pivotal scene, and as a result, you cost yourself an experience in a movie theater you otherwise will never be able to get back.
I don't know why this brings me so much joy, but just the idea of Karl Ravech with an empty bucket of popcorn being like, Norbit, I'm disgusted. I'm out of here.
Not only that, I was with my son Sam and his buddy Alex, and I said, we're out. They probably looked at me like, wait a minute, we just start, where are we going?
Well, you made the executive decision for the whole family, not I'll meet you. You say, we're an entire family. We don't stand for this. We're the Ravech household. We look for minority. We cannot find Norbit.
The manager comes out and takes the ball from the pitcher. I'm taking the ball. The movie's over. Let's go, boys. Out of the game. Find another one.
Wow. Karl Ravech joins the show. Ben Lyons here filling in for Rich on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's continue to talk some Hollywood. Tell me why the Dodgers are not the best team in baseball.
Well, I mean, win-loss wise, they're not. I'm certain they're going to end up that way. Again, it goes back to the skepticism of Steven Duggar and Brandon Crawford and Buster Posey and Kevin Gossman, and Johnny Cueto, and then let's throw out there Walker Buehler, Max Scherzer, Julio Urias, Clayton Kershaw, Justin Turner, Mookie Betts, Bellinger. You could go around the Dodgers team, and for the most part, every one of their names would be favored in a let's go through position by position. With the exception of Posey, generally going to probably favor the Dodgers, and Will Smith's really good. So they will be. They're not now. The Giants have been great. I don't think the Giants are going to leave. I think those are your three playoff teams in the National League. But I think the Dodgers win in a series. I think they're better.
It's crazy just to see the amount of talent they have out here in Los Angeles.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, they are every NBA team now that wins championships. They have stockpiled gross amount of talent. You know, let's all get together and just go to LA and play baseball. So we don't really need a shortstop, and we're pretty good with pitching. But let's add, the multiple Cy Young guy and somebody whose athleticism and speed may end up being the difference in a series, like we saw with Mookie Betts when they won it all. Remember, people forget it was his legs that won that World Series, or at least won a critical game with his secondary leads, I think at first and home when he came in to score. That's what Trey Turner can do now.
And then you go down the 405 a couple miles, and you get some traffic. It's a couple hours. But the Anaheim Angels have the most exciting player of my generation. I mean, this guy, Ohtani, what he's doing is just the stuff of legends. Yet you don't feel the presence here in the city of Los Angeles, or even now in this back half of the season with all the attention being put on him at the All-Star break. Anaheim not being a real contender, a serious contender. What do you think that does to just sort of his long-term plans in Anaheim? Do you see Ohtani having a change of scenery in coming seasons?
Yeah. I would think if that continues, it shortens his time in Anaheim. I think if you look back on the history and the pursuit of Ohtani and the list that he wrote, I think, when he was in high school of the things he wanted to accomplish at certain ages. And they were lofty, including like having a daughter and a son and getting married and winning a World Series and being an MVP. All those things are on these lists that he may come to find that Los Angeles with this team isn't the right place for me to accomplish those goals. He certainly seems worldly. He was unanimously enamored and accepted at the All-Star game for what he was doing. So he's making friends throughout the game. And look, moving from country to country is a very difficult thing, but he seems to have been able to now thread the needle, and other people have taken note. Like, we would love to have 10 of those on our team if we can find them. He's incredible. He's fast. He's gifted as a pitcher and a hitter. He's just everything you'd want. So I think he strikes you if you're willing to up and leave a country and go to play Major League Baseball. You're willing to up and leave a franchise and go do it somewhere where you recognize those pinstripe people from New York. That seems like something I might want to investigate now that I know about some of them and see what New York is about, or that team up the road that has those pretty white and blue uniforms. That might be interesting for me. Or I want to go live in the middle of the country, and I know how good the Chicago Cubs are, and I love their manager. I think all those things are in play for him. I think we do forget he also plays with Mike Trout, and we just haven't been able to enjoy the two of them. But look, the Angels are nowhere near where those other teams in that area of the country are. They're not the Padres, they're not the Giants, they're not the Dodgers. And I love Joe Madden, and I like his willingness to do things, but they need such an overhaul of pitching talent on both the starting and bullpen staffs that it's not next year. It doesn't feel like it's 2 years. It just constantly feels like, I don't know. You know the Big Dig. Remember the Big Dig in Boston? I know your dad probably does, but they had the Big Dig going, which was the construction of an underground tunnel which would allow folks from the west to drive to Logan Airport. It took like 9 years. Like, the Angels are the Big Dig of Major League Baseball. It just takes forever.
It sounds like Ohtani needs to pull a Norbit and just get out of there and pull an executive decision and say, time to go. That's what it sounds like, Carl. Pull a Norbit.
I wasn't contractually obligated to sit there and watch the rest of it. He is contractually obligated to stay and watch the rest of this and perform.
Well, you're contractual.
I love Eddie Murphy and a lot of other things. That one just didn't float my boat.
Do you have high hopes for Beverly Hills Cop 4 after Coming to America sequel being such a downer?
Yeah, I kind of shut it down. I like the car in the garage with the dust on it. I thought that was cool. But 2, 3s, and 4s. There's not a lot of sequels that are better than the original. Like, to me, Rocky 1 was the best book I ever read growing up. The book itself was fantastic, and the movie obviously was great. But after that, when we started to introduce different characters and Drago, et cetera, like I'm out. I'm just not into that. But again, that's just one man's opinion.
No, but Carl, I agree with you. 2, 3s, and 4s, usually not a good look when it comes to sequels. But that's why I've got hope for you. I think you could be a Fast guy. Because Fast 7, 8, and 9, those movies rip, Carl.
What part of them rip that I wouldn't have otherwise enjoyed in one?
I mean, Carl, you're a guy who lives his life 1/4 mile at a time. I get it. I think you'll find a lot of affinity between you and Dom.
How is Transformer? Where are we on the Transformer?
See, they're stuck in like 3, 4, 5. We got to keep it going. We got to bring back everybody. Bring back Tyrese, Dumel. Dumel's got great cheekbones. He never ages. Let's bring him back for 6, 7, 8, and now we got a chance.
When you and Adnan do things together, is your voice often confused?
Well, no, because I speak at the pace of a human being, and Adnan is a podcast on time and a half. So people can differentiate between the two of us because I speak at a normal pace. So
Adnan is the 7-inning game, and you're the 9-inning game.
Yeah, but I'm a Yankees Red Sox game on ESPN on a Sunday night. I'm going to draw it out for about 4.5 hours. Appreciate you taking some time, Carl. Really do. And I'm sorry Norbert was such a traumatic experience for you.
It's Norbit.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry,
okay.
Norbit. Yes, I apologize.
Norbit, yeah. So you did, Ben. Let's review Norbit next time we do this.
I think, Norbit, you got to go on Amin Al-Hassan's podcast, Cinephobe, where they take horribly rated movies and rewatch them. You're perfect for that. This whole baseball, being the face of baseball thing doesn't work out for you on TV. You've always got that, Carl.
You're the best. I love you.
Thanks for taking some time. Appreciate you. Karl Ravech joining the show.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.